No.
Happy for a second.
No.
Ready? Hey, happy Winter Monday, everybody. We're here in beautiful, historic Havre de Grace, Maryland with Kyle Hurst, proprietor, co-founder of Battery Island, which is Delmarva Craft. We're on the road again. COVID's almost behind us, so we're going to start doing this stuff a lot. Kyle, thanks for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
Pleasure to meet you. I had a good chance to chat with you a couple weeks ago and enjoy some of your beers. So first, we're going to get you to take us all the way back.
All right.
To how you got yourself into running the brewery in Havre de Grace, Maryland. What got you started, man?
So I guess it was a friend of mine, Kevin. He just moved to the area. He's from this area. He just finished, I think, 23 years of military service.
Mm-hmm.
Want to go back to, he's in Cecil County, take care of his mom, kind of live near her, and he was getting his house built. He's like, hey man, I was working with him at the time. He's like, I homebrew. I'll show you everything I know, but I need a space to do it. And I just bought a house here. So it's like, all right, yeah, we'll use my basement. And right off the bat, we started with 10-gallon batches, all grain system, and we were brewing once a week, and we're just giving beer out to everybody. And he had that 25 years experience, which is valuable because it allowed me to learn very, very quickly.
Now, how much experience did you have before you?
So it's been about 4 years. So even though this is a full-fledged brewery, I've only had 4 actual years of experience. But I will say, as a prolific home brewer, we got a lot of lessons learned and a lot of taste testers along the way.
So you brewed a lot of beer at home, is what you're telling me.
Absolutely. And jumping right into that level of system as a home brewer, I mean, you do learn a lot. When you're taking pH readings in your mash in your basement, I think you've gone to a certain point where you're like, okay, I know what's going on behind the scenes.
You leapt ahead a few steps.
I think so, Kevin. Yeah. He was running, and I just kind of caught up with him. So,
so it's fair to say then, once you started brewing with Kevin, you really caught the bug. You were really into this.
Absolutely. I put my own all grain system together myself. I got it made from kegels in the basement. I've got my own grinder, everything. I fell in love with it. It just became a passion.
So did you decide to start the brewery because your wife finally said, look, all this has to go?
No. I think we finally started seeing how many people were drinking our beer for free, and like, well, I think people should be charged for that. We're taking our time. No, in all seriousness, we had this one beer. It's our flagship IPA. It's a rye IPA with citra hops, a little bit of honey in the back end, and it was fantastic. There was nothing really like it that we could find, and it appealed to us so much. Everyone who was either a hophead, not a hophead, they all appreciated it. So we I think we have something here. Mm-hmm. So that's when it started. We start the business side of this. We built wrote a business plan. We started running the financials. Like, will this work in this little town? And we automatically assumed it had to be in Havre de Grace.
So why Havre de Grace? Why did you decide that?
So I've been here 5 years. I'm stationed here currently, and I'm going to be stationed here for another couple years, so it's excellent because I also have a brewery here. We walked down this town, we moved in the area, and we fell in love with the downtown. Mm-hmm. It's gorgeous, it's historic, it's got this tight little community. Like, I know all my neighbors on my street, we all like each other. It just has that small town feel, but you're on the northern Chesapeake, and has so much culture and things to appeal to people, but no brewery. Right. And I walked in this place, I'm like, how is there not a brewery in this place? This place should be, at least have 2. And we were looking around, we're like, we have to find a place. And we just fortuitously found one in October of 2020.
So let's step back and say, you mentioned this is a historic town. Tell our viewers a little bit about the backstory of Havre de Grace.
Havre de Grace, I mean, it is a quintessential town. So first off, a lot of people don't know, it was looked at to be our nation's capital, and it missed it by, I believe, 1 vote. And the reason being is with Susquehanna, it was a drought year, so they couldn't have established a good port. So it lost out to Washington, D.C. to be our nation's capital. But where it really gets a lot of its history and claim to fame is War of 1812. Kind of overlooked, and being in the military, I happen to know a little bit about it, an overlooked war in our history. This town was razed to the ground, burned by the British during an invasion in May of 1813, with the exception of one building, which is what was Rogers Tavern, now Abbey Burger. And the reason being is that there's a bunch of children in there that were taking refuge from the British. The building we're sitting in now was burned to the ground and then rebuilt in 1815 on the same foundation, and that's where the brewery sits today.
So this building is over 200 years old.
Yes. Yes.
And you said, I believe you told me that for 150 years it was a pharmacy.
Yes, Green's Pharmacy. So we actually found a sign in the basement. I'm getting it framed as it's glass of Green's Pharmacy. But there's the Green family was in Havre de Grace for about 150 years. They were well-known participants in the city. They had a lot of family members in the area, and this was their quintessential pharmacy. From there, it was a bike shop. It was Glyph. It was a barber shop right before we took over. So it's changed hands quite a bit in that time. The space has transformed. So knowing where the old building starts and where any add-ins, it's kind of getting blurred. But yeah, the foundation of this place.
So like we've traveled a lot of places and been to a lot of breweries, a lot of beer festivals and stuff like that. And I'm always interested in why people drink beer and why people brew beer. And some people just like beer. But I'm sensing with you, like you got like a historical bent to you, like, and so I refer to myself as a cultural drinker. When I go places, I don't drink, just to drink a lot. I'm like, okay, why do you use the hops you use, the malts you use? What's the history of brewing in this area? How does the local culture and history affect what goes into the glass? Is that part of your motivation too?
Well, I think you're going to find that I'm going to be a bit of a beer nerd now. Absolutely. So you'll find, we have some of the popular styles now. We will always have an IPA. We always have New England IPA, a sour, and some of these are very traditional styles. But way we're approaching them have kind of changed and evolved over time. But what you'll also see is we try to approach beer with a lot of the traditional styles and understanding kind of how it evolved. Beer, it's like bread. It's evolved with humanity since that first yeast strain, probably a sour to beer, and someone drank it and said, "Oh, I like that, and that makes me feel good." It's been evolving with us as a society, and different cultures have different ingredients and different approaches. So, when we brew the extra special bitter, a British beer that was typically known to be extra, bitter because they had more hops, and hops are hard to come by at the time. That's the gentleman's drink. That's what the higher class British would appreciate. But we also want to take a look at, like, okay, what's our base malt? Well, we're going to use Maris Otter, a British pale malt. Okay, what are we going to use for hops? Well, I'm going to use some Fuggles or some East Kent Golding, traditional British hops. Okay, well, let's take a look at water. Well, a lot of people overlook water. Like, okay, well, what were they using? What was the London water profile at that time? And then yeast, of course, try to find a suitable British style yeast for that beer. So bringing it all together, I want to taste the way the beer evolved for that area when it was invented to kind of get that experience.
So are you telling me that when you brew this ESB, that you try to condition the water that you have here to match that profile as much as you can?
Absolutely.
Wow.
In fact, we have a Scottish beer coming out in a couple of weeks for the Celtic Festival, and that water profile is, where was that? It's trying to think of the city in Scotland, Edinburgh, Edinburgh water profile. So I want to get it as traditional as possible. And on a small scale nano brewery, 3.5 barrel, you can. As you scale up, it's a little bit harder for those minerals to kind of get in there.
So you guys are like almost like little local artists. You're creating a little piece of culture, a little piece of art that is reflective of various places and times and history and culture. And basically like a little one-off shop to create these little glasses of art, as opposed to just being a brewery that's mass manufacturing and trying to distribute.
I mean, we did not enter this because we have day jobs. I'm an active duty service member. It takes up a lot of my time. The reason we do this is for the love of the game, for the love of beer. I mean, beer it's not something that just should be enjoyable and consumed. It should be appreciated, and we want to take all the time to find those little nuances for each style and make it representative of kind of what that beer was trying to be when it was invented or discovered. I always love to tell a story of the dry Irish stout. A lot of people are like, well, it's always like a Guinness. Well, yeah, Guinness was one of the first ones. Guinness is older than the country is, the brewery. But the dry Irish stout was discovered because the British were taxing malted grain. Right. So they used a lot of dry roasted unmalted grain to create that flavor. And it's just kind of funny how, economics and just social differences created this beer style that's, iconic now.
Well, wherever there's a regulation that attempts to tax people more, people have become very creative about finding a way around
Oh, absolutely.
And sometimes create an iconic beer, like our dry Irish stout.
Happy accidents.
So you guys are a destination brewery right here in the downtown area, a very walkable town here, lots of nice pubs and restaurants and shops close by here. How have you been received here in Havre de Grace?
Open arms. Everyone was very excited. I feel like everyone wanted us to be, I think, where we've ended up now when we first opened. Because we were very small, very nothing on the walls, just trying to get our doors open, small brewery, and people, you could just feel the energy. Everyone just wanted this to succeed. And we have, and now we're getting to the place where I think people wanted us to go. So we're adding live music, we have trivia, we have more events, outdoor food's always welcome. So if someone wants to bring something in, and we're looking to kind of expand and kind of, participate in more events and kind of be more of a cornerstone to the community. And I think everyone's really excited for us to take that kind of role.
And you were mentioned, we'll talk about festivals here for a minute. You just had the Ice Festival here, which I understand was very well attended.
Absolutely.
And people are obviously, when they come to a town when people travel, and I travel a lot, we're looking for the local. So people come here, if they're going to buy souvenirs, they want it to be something crafted local. They want to find the local pub or local brewery wherever they go. And Havre de Grace is famous for their First Fridays in the summer like that.
Oh.
So you find that all these festivals are helping people to discover you?
Absolutely. I mean, we don't have the budget to market. We don't market. We're kind of word of mouth and a little bit of an online presence, to be perfectly honest.
And you have other beer nerds come in here and talk to you.
Oh yeah, and it's a great community. The brewing community is very supportive. We talk to each other. We trade secrets, like how you doing this, how'd you approach that. But yeah, absolutely. Everything about Havre de Grace, it wants to be discovered, and kind of we feel we kind of fit that. Like, this town, the city, is a gem, and I think people really need to give it, take some time to come see it. But also stop by when you're here to the brewery, because we might offer something that you may have never experienced before.
Well, I find a lot of people in the highly populated central part of the state have no idea what's up in northern Hartford and Cecil County. The fact that you're right on the Susquehanna and you're right on the bay.
Absolutely.
Gorgeous here, especially in the summertime. And I-95, literally millions of cars pass by here every year, minutes away from you.
Yes.
Let's get that on the camera. He's minutes, 3-4 minutes off of I-95. So if you're driving up, if you see this and you're driving back and forth between New England or New York or down south, he's right here. Pop off, come see him.
And I was at a comedy show in a State Theater in Havre de Grace, which we have a lot of neat concerts and stuff there. I mean, we have a concert hall. A lot of people know about that either. But I guess the joke was, they're from kind of the Baltimore area, and they come up and all our trees are lit up. It's like right before Christmas. There's everything. And they say it looks like a Hallmark card. And I guess that's the best way to describe Havre de Grace. It looks like a postcard. Yeah. Like, you're like, oh, where is this place? Well, this is quintessential Northeast Maryland.
Yeah. So it's the Bagnell. You talked about the military, and Kevin, your co-founder, was in the military too, and hence the name Battery Island. You guys have chosen a military motif for the name.
So that's actually a little bit of play of words. So battery, yes. A lot of people assume that battery is associated with cannons and artillery. Battery Island is not. So we deliberately tried to play that off because it was kind of a double entendre. So Battery Island is actually an island off the coast of Havre de Grace in Aberdeen, built by the Army Corps engineers in the 1850s, and it was used for fishing shad. So if you see our logo, that's actually kind of a take on a shad, like a hop cone for tail, and our little bee in there. But
I'll do my job here and go. Logo.
But yeah, so Battery Island now is a state park. It has a lighthouse still on it. Does not run, but people go there and kind of tether their boats. And what the locals know it as a great place to drop anchor and have a little bit of a party.
Yeah. While away a nice Sunday afternoon in the
Absolutely.
summertime.
Yeah. So it's kind of we want to be a little bit like a double entendre for the military. We want to bring in that history aspect, because Havre de Grace is full of history. Not many people know us, but it was one of the only wet towns during Prohibition. So we had a big mob presence during the 1930s. So
Yeah, and so you said you're originally from New England.
Yes.
There's a reason that Maryland's called the Free State. Because during Prohibition, Maryland was the only state in the Union at the time that basically refused to pass companion legislation and enforce the Prohibition laws. Good on you, Maryland.
Yeah, and I mean, who was it? Al Capone stayed here for a while. It's got a pretty interesting history. It's pretty rich. But yeah, so it's it was kind of just trying to be part of that Havre de Grace iconic, scenery. It's what we really want. Like Battery Island, locals know it, but people should know about it, and we also feel that way coming out of our brewery.
Yeah, so we'll talk about festivals a little bit. You mentioned the Scottish Festival that's coming up here. That's very well attended. We talked about First Fridays and the Ice Festival, but we actually sought you out for a festival that we're doing up in Elkton, 25 minutes from here, called Defenders Festival, because you mentioned the War of 1812 and the burning here of Havre de Grace and that. So in Elkton, there's a place called Historic Elk Landing, which is also the site of a battle during the War of 1812, as the British Navy raided up along the northern Chesapeake on both sides of the bay. So you guys have graciously agreed to come up there with us April 30th. We're having Fifth Company, and you guys, Battery Island and Patriot Acres, and other military affiliated breweries are going to be up there. I believe Tenite from Queen Anne's County, also owned by military veterans. Trying to get as many of those guys and girls in as we possibly can to celebrate the people who helped protect this country 200 years ago and still help protect it today. Yeah, so we're very happy you guys are coming for that.
I'm excited. It's going to be our first real big off-site festival, so we're very excited to attend, and I'm excited to have people try our beer for the first time, potentially, or try it again if they like it in return.
Yeah. So tell us about, like, what do you see for the future of Battery Island? What are you guys pretty entrenched here now? You got a good groove going. You're really brewing some great beers now. What do you see for you guys the next 2-3 years?
So I would say 2020 or 2021 getting us open was kind of the walk phase. We're still getting our feet underneath us. We're still adjusting to scaling brewery production and all those hard lessons learned as you kind of develop your recipes and understand what works, what doesn't.
Did you have any? I find that from a lot of the breweries I've been to, that was like one of their biggest problems up front. We're used to brewing these 10, 15, even 20, 30 gallon batches. Now all of a sudden I'm brewing 3, 5, 10 barrels at a time. Was that much of a challenge for you guys?
So yes and no. So we use some software. We particularly use Beersmith here to kind of design our recipes. So scaling the recipes and kind of understanding how that all works wasn't an issue. But physics kind of always has a say. So when you're just putting that much grain in a surface area of, let's say, your mash tun, or you have a fermenter that you're dry hopping, 8 to 12 pounds of hops in there, and it's all soaking up, and after you pull it off, it settles in the cone of the conical. Well, that is difficult to clean, and sometimes you get it stuck. So either way, it was kind of figuring out how to avoid those, how to improve our processes, and just kind of learn. That was the most challenging part. And then once we figured that out, I think our beers are, at this point, as we enter 2022, we're running. In fact, we're a full sprint.
Yeah, you just showed me before we came on camera your military discipline and your organization with your SOP manual with pictures and charts and everything. And it's like one of the most organized documents I've seen in a local brewery anywhere. So you guys are all over that.
It's how my brain works. I think that's how I've been. I've been active duty for 14 years now, and then I was non-active or non-deployable active when I was at West Point for 4 years. So this year, actually, as I am 35 and I hit June, I will be in the military for 18 years. And I joined when I was 17 and a half. So I would have been I am in the Army longer than I have not been in my life.
Wow. So how much longer do you plan on staying in the military?
So I kind of want to wait and see how it goes. Yeah. I see a minimum of 6 additional years, kind of round up my 20 years. A lot of people, that's a kind of a transition point for people. But I'm going to keep going until I stop having fun.
Gotcha.
It's kind of like brewing beer. I'm having fun. I'm loving it.
So you have fun brewing beer. Let's talk about your beers.
Yeah, absolutely.
What are like some of your favorite beers to brew? And I know they're all like your children. You can't pick one over the other.
Absolutely.
But just tell me about some of your favorites.
So that rye IPA, I really do love brewing it because it just brings back all those memories of home brewing and figuring out like the happy accidents along the way, developing that recipe. But they are all my children. I do love the New England IPA that you're drinking, Always Sunny.
Always Sunny, double New England IPA, very juicy, nice. Nice beer.
That was I love that because the water profile now, I was fiddling around with for the longest time trying to get that protein to stay in suspension. So I'm all about the science and kind of the chemistry and biology behind everything. But I really do, if I'm going to go passion, I like traditional styles. So I'm drinking our Bad Santa, which is a German Weizenbock, but where we deviated from tradition because it's Christmas beer. We added some cinnamon, some ginger, and some orange peel. Yep. But I've got that nice German ale yeast flavor, a little bit of Munich malt in there. It's very nice. The ESB it's coming out is probably one of my favorite beers I've ever made. That being that we tried to get that British water profile. We did use British malt, British hops, and just having that kind of dose of a traditional beer flavor where maybe the style isn't as appreciated as it should be. So they're all like my children. I love them all, and I have like a relationship with each recipe because we've been tweaking them so often.
So you're talking about traditional styles. Are you doing anything with like a nice, clean Czech style Pilsner or German lagers?
Absolutely. So as we only have 12 taps. That is kind of a limiting factor.
That's enough.
It's enough. I mean, I think it's enough. But we want to have a couple IPAs, a New England IPA for sure. We want to have a sour. We need something dark on tap for the people like the porters and the stouts. Absolutely. So looking at what we have to play with as we move towards the spring. The next brew session and brew is going to be a Scandinavian style ale. So it's going to have spruce and juniper as a filter bed for the mash, and I'm going to use spruce tips and juniper berries for the boil, and kind of avoid using hops and use that traditional style. Whereas going towards the spring, I think we're going to go more to some blonde ales, maybe have a nice Pilsner, getting ready for like May, try to get those lawnmower beers out there.
Oh, yeah.
So we want change with the season and kind of with our palate.
Yeah. So you guys, as I said earlier, you guys are a local destination brewery, beautiful tap room here in Havre de Grace, but people also can get beers to go from here. So if they come in here and they love Always Sunny, they can grab a crowler of that and take it home?
Yes, absolutely. So we do 32-ounce crowlers to go. Kind of weren't quite sure how the year would turn out, and it was an excellent investment, but it seems like people really do like the to-go crowlers because sometimes you come in, it's busy, so you might not be able to find a seat, but Always Sunny, be sure to ask for it at the bar. We don't keep cans there because we want to make sure it's as fresh as possible. New England IPAs, you gotta have them fresh.
So like the crowler I took home, I sat here as she filled the can for me right then, and I took it home.
It's one of the only beers we do that with because we want to make sure it's peak freshness because those New England IPAs, they gotta be fresh.
Yes. So now I'm going to circle back to a question I interrupted for myself. So now we're sitting here January of 2022. You guys are open. You got about a year under your belt here now. What are we seeing for the next couple of years?
So I think we are pretty close to steady state, but there are some opportunities that I want to kind of explore. So Havre de Grace being such a beautiful downtown, they're looking at doing a renovation, kind of a facelift to its downtown and the street right in front of us. So we want to see what that's going to look like. That might allow us to extend to some outdoor seating out front, which would be kind of nice, kind of like a European patio type thing. If that doesn't happen, the next step is that we're going to put a deck out on the outside of this, and then we're going to have add some light bulbs, like a pergola, and then maybe some live music outside, and kind of get that outdoor seating so people can enjoy not just the beautiful Maryland weather for the 4 months of the year we have beautiful weather, but also that view of the local park and the northern Chesapeake in the distance.
Very cool. So now, for people who want to know more about Battery Island and they want to come visit you, tell them where they can find you here in person and online.
All right, so in person, we're on the main street in Havre de Grace, 101 North Washington Street, but you can find us online, www.batteryislandbrewing.com. We're also on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter.
Kyle, I appreciate you taking the time to chat with us today. Can't wait to have you guys up at the Defenders Festival.
Absolutely.
Come down and visit these guys in Havre de Grace. Check them out. The Scottish Festival here. And what's the date for that festival? Make sure we get that right.
I believe it is the 26th to the 30th of January.
Yep, so come to Havre de Grace, visit this great town, come to Battery Island, try these great beers. Until next time, I'm Rick Carter with Delmarva Craft, man. Take care.
Take care.
Perfect, man. You nailed it. See?
Thanks.
Piece of cake.